Look, you can make money or you can make excuses, but you can't do both. Let's get into it. All right, so a lot of years ago, I don't want to tell you how many because it's kind of embarrassing, but a lot of years ago, I used to sell some real estate. Actually, I got into real estate because I wanted to invest, and I thought it would be great to get my license. That way I can, get access to certain things and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, so this broker, this grumpy old broker that I had, the first one, and it was at a real estate company that was relatively new, but was just really growing here locally in Knoxville. It was Heath Schuler Real Estate. I don't mind saying the name. It's out there out of business now, or sold or whatever. Which was Heath Schuler was a quarterback at the University of Tennessee, and then he played the pros and didn't do so well. But anyway, he was a nice guy. He was always nice to me. But the broker there, Bob, the only thing he ever said in training, or at least the only thing I remember him saying, was exactly that. You can make money or make excuses, but you can't do both. And that's exactly right. And so that's kind of what I wanted to get into, because it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all when it comes to excuses. Your excuses have a lot to do with where you are in your business, because at one level of business, your excuses are going to be monumentally different than they are at another. So say 0 to 10,000 a year excuses are different than 10,000 to $100,000 a year excuses, right? Those are completely different. And what really happens is the smaller the number, the bigger the disparity, or the bigger the excuses are. So I'm going to talk to you about each one and kind of break them down real quick. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about the two that really matter, the two things you can really do that really matter. So if you like this kind of stuff, go ahead and hit subscribe. I know we're not talking about ads today, but this does kind of play into that, because we do talk about a little bit from an ad standpoint. So let's just go ahead and get started. All right, so the first set of excuses are from, when you're at 0 to say $10,000 a year, give or take, something like that. These are the starting out excuses. And it's things like, I'm not exactly sure what my offer should be, or you keep changing your offer. You don't think it's right, or whatever it is. And what tends to happen on this is that you're going by feelings, right? You're not going by actual data, what people have actually said, or if you are going by what people said, it's like one person. So I know this is kind of a little bit different, but you'll get the point. I had a client who was amazing client, and she messaged me one time because on her ad, somebody, I can't remember exactly what they said, but they commented that they didn't like one particular thing about the ad. And it was one comment, and there were hundreds of other comments. Nobody said anything about that. But that one comment bothered her, and she wanted to change up the whole campaign just because of that one comment. Well, I mean, obviously, me saying that to you right now, you can see that there's a problem with that if it's just one comment. But yet, when you're new in business, that's exactly what you go by, the one comment, the one person, or worse, you go by what you think's going to work. And that's okay to kind of get kicked off and stuff, but the reality of it is that the people who are your audience will make different decisions than you would make. So you can use it as a go-by, but you really need to take a look at hard data. And I know that's not the funnest thing, because it's easier to go by what you feel, but that's usually not correct, and it usually doesn't work that way. The other thing about kind of excuse that happens is, oh, nobody's going to pay me that much. I don't have that many clients. How can I charge that? So I was sitting in Starbucks one time, not that long ago, and there were a couple of ladies in front of me who were talking about Enneagram stuff. Anyway, so I inquired about it, and we talked, and one of the ladies was an Enneagram coach. And so she was giving me her card, and she was following up with me, which I was proud of her for doing that, for following up with me. And so she told me, I forgot what it was going to cost, like $125 for something. And then she immediately lowered the price and when I asked her about it, she said, well, I'm kind of new and I don't have any clients and stuff. And, I didn't really talk to her about this part of the process because, working with so many coaches and stuff, I just kind of let her do her thing because she was so new. But in my head, I was thinking, you need to charge like 10 times that, and that's exactly what I was thinking. She just didn't have the confidence to do it. And that's where a lot of people are when they first start, and they just don't have the confidence to charge what they really should be charging. And then the other kind of excuse that happens in this kind of revenue range is, oh, I've got to get this ready and this and this and this. I got to have all this stuff ready before I can get going. That's the worst thing you could do. I got to get this certification or that. I'm like, most of the time you don't. Unless it's required, you probably don't need that stuff. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have it. I'm just saying that, putting your business off to go get that, that's probably not the best way to do it. We sell first, we build later. That's kind of the best way to do it, because I'm just telling you, you'll end up spinning your wheels on a lot of things that don't work, and you don't want to do that. And just remember, you don't want to try to build your confidence before you take action. You've got to take action, which will give you confidence. That's really how it works. And it may hurt, it may sting a little, you may get a couple of gut punches, but that's okay. That's really how it's going to work. Now, when you get to the $100,000 a year excuses, these are often the I'll fix it myself or I'll do it all myself excuses. So it tends to manifest itself in stuff like, I just need to do a little bit more of this, get a little bit more revenue, and then I can hire that assistant or that media buyer or the videographer, or whatever it is, right? It's just once I get there, I'll do it, which doesn't ever happen. It'll never happen, because first of all, you can't get there, right? And if you can get there, you're usually or often you're in the scarcity mode, so you don't believe you're going to stay there. So then you don't want to hire because you don't think you're going to stay there. Well, that's trouble, okay? Because you're not going to, it's kind of this vicious cycle. You've got to go ahead and step out on the ledge, so to speak, and jump and just go and know that things could foul up. They could mess up. You may not make it, and that's okay. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just saying that that's how it works. There are no guarantees in this. And you can take it from me. I've had corporate jobs, multiple corporate jobs, where I literally just walked in one day and quit. No joke. I didn't have any parachute or anything. I've never had a problem with that. I'm like, I know it's going to work out. I've had a business in some form or fashion most of my life, at least since I was about 24 or 25. But I have, in between times, sometimes worked corporate jobs for various reasons, and I had no problem leaving without a net. And I'm not telling you to do that exactly the way I did it. I mean, I would be better prepared. I'd at least have a plan, because a couple times I didn't have a plan, or at least one time I didn't have a plan. But that being said, you want to go ahead and drop the excuses of not taking the next step because you're worried it may not work out. The other thing is that a lot of times people will get scared to let go of things that are have worked but aren't working now, right? They'll have something, they got it, it's going, and they don't want to let it go. And I've done that myself, where I had I was selling this guide, and it was working great, and then it just stopped. I mean, it literally just stopped, and I could not give it away. I was going in the hole every time I was running ads to it and everything, and I just didn't want to let it go. But once I did, then I could actually see the next things that I needed to do and what I could do to build upon it and actually do way better, and that's exactly what happened. So these kind of excuses at that range are what we call control excuses, because you think, working harder is going to solve the problem, when really you need to learn how to delegate and how to let things go faster. That's really what's going to help. All right, now let's talk about the 500K, from doing 500K a year excuses. So these are the I'm a bottleneck excuses that I call them. So it's stuff like, nobody can close like me. Nobody can do a post like I can. Nobody can write copy like me or do a sales page, yada, yada, yada. And that all very well may be true, but you're going to end up being the bottleneck, because you're not going to be able to get enough stuff out there to make it work. And that's one of those things that really keeps a lot of people stuck. They just can't get from $500,000 to $1 million a year. And this is one of the reasons. The other thing is that they often will say something like their team keeps screwing up, but they don't change the team. They don't fix it. They know the team's the issue, but the team's the one that they feel like's holding it together. But instead of taking action and fixing the team until whatever action that requires, they just kind of keep letting it go. Another thing that happens often is your ROI is dropping, but your costs are going up, right? That happens all the time. And so you get again to a scarcity mindset and a scarcity mode of thinking, oh, I can't do anything right now. I can't expand now. My returns, going down. My revenue's going down, and I'm spending more. And so these are, again, just excuses, and these are all really what we call leadership excuses. You want the growth without letting go, right, or taking the necessary next steps, and that's just not going to get you where you want to be. All right, let's talk about the $1 million a year excuses. Now, there are a whole set of excuses once you get from 1 to like between 3 and 4 million. And then once you get to about 10 million, but we're not going to cover those on this one. Let's just talk what happens when you get to 1 million. These are what we call the now what excuses. And there are things like, you're thinking, can I really do this? Or, gosh, I'm a fraud. At any moment, this whole thing's just going to fall apart. Like, there's just no way. And part of it is because you've realized that all these people that you were looking up to, that you thought had their act together, really didn't. They're flying by the seat of their pants. They don't really know what they're doing, but somehow they're making it work. And that's kind of where you are, or at least you feel like you are. And you actually have it way more together than you think. But because you've come from a situation where you didn't have anything together, now you're at 1 million, you're like, how am I even doing this? Your identity hasn't caught up with you yet. And the other things that you could be thinking about during this phase is like, it's not as much fun as it used to be anymore, or, I'm working harder than ever. And, you're kind of caught up with that. And these are all identity excuses. You've built this thing, but now you're questioning, if you even want it or if you can maintain it. And it's a very scary place to be. But if that's where you are, you're in the right place. That's exactly where most people are. All right, so now let me just tell you the two biggest problems. And these are the two biggest problems for just about everybody, just about all the time. One of them is boredom. You get bored of your offer, you get bored of your marketing, your Facebook group, your posting, your emails, whatever, your videos, whatever it is, you get bored with it. So you think everybody else is bored with it. And so that's where you're taking action from. So there's this old story, and I don't know how true it is, but I'm going to tell it anyway, at least the way I know it. And I think it was Henry Ford was sitting in a marketing meeting, about marketing some of the first automobiles, and the guy came in and was laying out what they're talking about doing, and Henry Ford says, I don't know, he goes, it just seems like this is, just seems like, this is getting stale. It's just been going on so long, and just, maybe we need to change it up. And the guy's like, well, we haven't actually started the campaign yet. And that's kind of how it is, right? You get bored of it way before your audience does. And the truth is that you really need to, from a marketing standpoint, say an ad standpoint, you need to pay attention to what the metrics are telling you, not what you think, because what you think doesn't really matter. So, people sometimes they want to hang on to campaigns too long, and then they don't want to hang on to them long enough. It's usually one of those two things. But it's a boredom, because you're seeing it every day. You're seeing it, and you just, as entrepreneurs, most of us, we want something new and exciting and fresh, and we're not getting that. And so we're not getting that. We want to change. The second thing is really about traffic. You just aren't getting enough eyes on your stuff. This happens all the time. It's not that your offer stinks, although it could be, right? It's not that, you don't know enough, or that you're not charging enough, or whatever it is. You're just not getting enough eyeballs on it, or you're not getting enough of the right eyeballs on it. And so it's hard to persevere through that, because it feels like you're getting stagnant, like nothing's happening. You're not growing. You're not moving forward. So that's happening to you. It's very, very. So the question is what level are you, and which type of excuses are you making, right now? Because the truth is, every level has a price, and every level has a payoff, and every level has a brand new set of BS that's going on in your head, and that's trying to sell you on it being right. So you just want to identify that sooner rather than later, and realize that it's okay to have those excuses. But what's not okay is to sit in them and to keep them from getting you where you really want to be. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. And listen, if you like this kind of stuff, this kind of talk, you might want to subscribe to my Brutal Truth Marketing Digest. It's free. I send it out once a week, and it's really to the point, okay? And if you like this kind of stuff, that's what you're going to get in it. And everybody that subscribes, at least so far, loves it. So check that link in that below, and I'll catch you on the next episode. See you then.